This is video 36 on MicroPython and LVGL 9 on a Raspberry Pi Pico. Although we can easily add a push button to our project, how can we integrate it to LVGL? In this video, we do just that. Please let us know in the comments if you like this example, or let us know if you have suggestions to improve it. For this effort, the rig is using a Pico-W board inserted into a PICO Breadboard Kit, available at your favorite online retailer. The kit has 4 push buttons, and we inserted an ILI 9341 display into the breadboard. As this channel covers multiple small system solutions over time, please subscribe to stay informed, and click like, as that really helps. We have simple goals in mind for this effort. We will research the LVGL documentation, set up the test rig for just the display and no touch, finally verify the functionality. In the next 3 slides, we will discuss the features found. Finally, we will review the code. Push buttons are for an input device interface, or INDEV. We can use the push buttons to simulate a rotary encoder, or to simulate a screen button, which is funny until you realize that that provides a solution for screens without touch controllers. A typical rotary encoder either turns right or left and has a switch. Here, the push buttons represent those actions. We like it because it provides the same operational functioning as a rotary encoder. Essentially, the push button represents a coordinate point on the display, which means the point is somewhere within the screen area of a screen button. The documentation talks about a point array, and it turns out they assume you have multiple spots throughout your program. This is useful for displays without a touch controller, or it can simply be more convenient for the user, for example, if their hands are wet or they are wearing gloves. Let's look at a demonstration. We will run the test button slider display program with 3 objects that are in an encoder group. The slider is the default. Notice it's the one that has the blue halo around it. For this program, there are 3 buttons defined. Button 1 is the right turn or up button. Button 2 is the left turn or down. Button 3 simulates the encoder switch. We begin our program with everything in navigation mode. So we can press button 1 to select a different object. We now have button 2 selected. You can see that based on the fact that it has the blue halo around it. Now we have the slider selected. You can see that it has the blue halo around it. If we press button 3, which simulates the switch on the rotary encoder, this puts the slider into edit mode. And you know this because the blue halo changes to a red halo. Now we can press button 1 to increase the value of the slider. Or we can press button 2 to move the slider down. If we hold the button, that does a long press and the slider moves faster. When we are done, we can press button 3 again, which again is the switch of a rotary encoder, to move us back into navigation mode. You can see with the blue halo now, we're back in halo mode. We can now move up, and we've selected button 1. If we press button 3, the switch, on a button, instead of going into edit mode, it just activates that button. In other words, it says we've clicked button 1. Okay, now I'm on button 2, and I'll press button 3. All right, that's the functionality of the rotary encoder when you use hardware buttons. Okay, let's look at the code. In this video, we are using the Pico-W with the April firmware. We are using the same driver files. There are no changes to our drivers. Now let's walk through the code. Let's go back to the test button slider display. Okay, this is the test button slider display program. It has the standard imports, so there's nothing new to learn there. Here we've defined 4 hardware buttons based on GPIO pins 2, 3, 4, and 5. Below that, we've actually defined the push button 1 through 4. We have 4 push buttons on the breadboard kit, and so we're going to use all 4 buttons. But as you'll see, we only really need 3. All right, moving on to the UI. We define our screen object, we set the color of the border, and move on to the button style. This is the style for the 2 buttons. Here's the callback. We'll come back to that in a second. We define a simple button. We give it a certain size and position, and we give it a label. As you'll see soon, the label is important because we're going to read this label, the text within a label of a specific button. Finally, we define an event on the button. So the callback event is going to be this button callback. You'll see in a second that button 2 is going to use the same callback. So when the button is pressed, the code in the callback will get the target of the event, in other words, which button it is, and it will define that for the variable btn. If button exists, then we get its child. So what's the child of the button? Well, the label. So now that we have the label of the button, we can use that to get the text and print the message. So now it'll print clicked button and then the text. So if we simulate the press of button 1, then it's going to print clicked button 1. All right, button 2 is defined exactly the same as button 1. The slider is pretty simple. It's just a standard slider. And next to the slider, we have a label so that we can print the value of the slider. Let's move on down in our code. And here is where we're going to define the INDEV. So this is the callback for the INDEV. We'll come back to that. So what we do is we define an INDEV for the push button. And we want this to simulate an encoder, so we set it as INDEV type encoder. We process any reads with this read callback. And we've also have this value for the long press, which is 50 milliseconds. All right. The next thing you do is encoders need encoder group. In other words, what objects are going to be navigated to in this group. So we have 3 widgets, buttons 1, 2, and 3, buttons 1 and 2, and the slider. We always define the slider as the first object because if you define the buttons first, the encoder group has a flaw in which it doesn't recognize that as being within an encoder group. So if you define the slider, it realizes that it needs to navigate across the 3 objects, and it works as you've seen. So after we define the button group, we add each of the objects, in this case sliders, button 1, button 2, and then we set the group of this INDEV to this button group. And finally, we set the button group editing to true. That's to put us into navigation mode. Okay, now that we're in navigation mode, what's going to happen as it pulls through this INDEV? So as it does, it's going to read the values of each of the push buttons. If push button 1 is pressed, its value will be 0 because we have our push buttons in the hardware pulled up to 3 volts. And so whenever we press the button, it's going to make a contact with ground, and therefore its value will be 0. So when the button press is equal to 0, that means we've pressed it. So when we press button 1, if you recall, we wanted it to simulate the encoder as turning right. And button 2, we want to use it to simulate turning left. So you see that we've set the data.key equals to LV key right for button number 1. We set its encoder diff to +1, and that simulates turning right. For button 2, we set its data key equal to LV key left, and we set its encoder difference equal to -1, which simulates turning left. Okay, there's one other function described in the manual, which is key enter. Data.key equals the key enter, and this is supposed to simulate the pressing of the switch. However, I found that it doesn't actually do that. So I'll use the data state and the INDEV state pressed. So if button 3 is pressed, then we set the state to pressed. If not, then it's released. Finally, we update the label. And that's just the label of the value next to the slider. Okay, that's the code for the button slider. You can see we've integrated each of the keys. It's fairly simple, and it provides good functionality. Let's move to the next demo. This program just puts out 2 buttons out on the screen. The press of a button occurs with a coordinate on the screen. What we aim to do is define the coordinate as a spot within the area of the button. So if you define a point within the area of the first button, that will simulate the pressing of that button. In this case, I have defined 2 hardware buttons. Hardware button 1 will press the button in the upper left-hand corner, and hardware button 2 will press the button in the lower right hand. So if we press button 1, you can see it's now reporting that button 1 was pressed. And when we press button 2, it reports that button 2 was pressed. Let's look at the code for the area button. Area button has the standard imports, as we've been using in this video and others. Here we've only defining 2 buttons, so we're having switch 1 and switch 2 on the breadboard be push buttons 1 and 2. We set up the screen as before. We set up some buttons, very similar to before. Let's go down to the INDEV. So here we're defining the push button driver again. But this time notice that its INDEV type is not encoder, but button. So that tells us that we want different functionality for these buttons. And it tells us that it's expecting a point array. So we define that next. We use the LVGL structure point_t to set up a data structure for the pointer. And then we populate that pointer for x and y as the coordinate 15, 20. and that's going to be within the button area. So as you recall, we've got these buttons defined that are 40 by 40, a square essentially. Its position is 5, 5, so right here. And so we want to define a point anywhere within that square. So 15, 20 is a reasonable point inside this square. And so that's going to represent the simulating of the press of button 1. For button 2, it's a square 40-40 that starts at 75-75. So we've defined a coordinate 85-85 that's certainly within this area of this button. So now we have the first button is index 0 within this button set button points array, and PA2 is the second item. So its index will be 1. So now let's look at the callback. If we look at the callback, we're getting the push button values as before, and if we've pressed PB1, then it's 0, and we want it to tell LVGL that the 0th item in the array has been pressed. So we set data.buttonID equals to 0. If we want to tell it the next item is the item that was pressed, then you see that in this next area here, data.buttonID equals 1. So that's this second item in the list. And so that simulates the pressing of button 2. Now that we know that one of the buttons has been pressed, we set the data state to pressed. And here I've populated the last button, but that was just so that I can print it out for debug purposes. And I set a slight delay that you should do anytime you press a button. Otherwise, I release the state. And as a result, whenever we press the hardware button, it simulates the pressing of this button on the display. In summary, in this video, we researched the LVGL documentation. We discussed the 2 INDEV features we can interface. We demonstrated the programs. We reviewed the program code. Now you have an LVGL 9 example of an interface to push buttons. Although the code was written for the Pico-W, the features should work for any of the platforms, including ESP32. Please comment if you feel other changes are needed. I hope this video helps your LVGL MicroPython coding. Thank you for listening.